Hey everyone, it's 4:57 in the morning. I'm Kyle.
I'm Erin.
And I'm Mike.
And tonight on Sleepy Nerds Podcast, Mike eats $40 in pennies.
Ugh. Doesn't even sound appetizing.
1, 2, 3, listen.
How you guys doing tonight? Yeah, I know we're the Sleepy Nerds Podcast, but...
We're the sleepy, disgruntled nerds podcast.
We are the
tonight.
sleepiest nerds podcast right now. I am fucking beat.
I feel like you're setting that up, and one night we're going to have to record at like 6 in the morning. And
Why would you say that?
Yeah.
it's going to happen.
So how you guys doing? Anything new going on with you?
I've had a headache for 2 days.
Oh my god.
That's good.
Yeah,
Is that what you're getting operated on? Are they taking out the headache?
Yeah. Just to take out the whole brain.
Yeah.
No more headaches for the rest of my
That
life.
sounds
I mean, no
great.
more life for the rest of my life, but there will be no headaches.
It'll be a
at
short
least.
life, but no headaches for it.
No,
It's not too bad, no.
Well, I mean, because I'm having the surgery, I can't take any blood thinners for at least 2 weeks prior. So that means no, like ibuprofen or Advil or...
If you think the good news, though, you'll be unconscious the entire time Inhumans is on TV, so... You're a lucky man.
So that's enough about the future. Today we're going to be talking about the past.
Yeah, we figure it's 4 episodes in and you know nothing about any of us.
Yeah,
so-
except everyone listening at this point is someone who actually knows us.
Possibly, at this point, yeah.
No, we have no listeners.
I've invited plenty of strangers.
Gross.
None have accepted yet.
Were they all in the Walmart parking lot at 2 a.m.?
They're in a Walmart bathroom at 2 a.m.
Ooh.
Come on, get it right.
Somehow worse.
All right.
Is it though?
So we're going to be talking about nerdy first tonight. I think we're all pretty much self-described nerds.
Yeah.
There's things we got into early in life that I think have defined us. So anyone wants to start? Go ahead,
After
because
you.
my eyes are bleeding.
I
think,
can
like,
confirm his eyes are bleeding.
I think my main interests probably are movies, I'm not really a video game person, never have been. I think movies have kind of like defined most of my life, and comics. I go back and forth collecting both. I think, actually traced back my first comic. It was Detective Comics 690. It was an issue starring Batman's most illustrious villain, Firefly.
How on earth did you find the first comic you ever read?
Because I remember it.
Not the worst villain, though.
Not the worst villain, no. I remember going to a grocery store when I still sold comics in grocery stores.
On those like metal
The spinner
wheel
racks.
racks, yeah.
Yeah, it came off a spinner rack. And
Spinner rack. Like
Yeah.
Pokemon?
Yeah.
Shut up.
God
Go
damn
on.
it.
I'll tell you what, those metal spinner racks now,
Now we're just gonna say spinner rack. God damn it.
spinner racks are very hard to find, and if you can find one in a decent condition, they can go for a decent amount of money.
Really?
Crazy.
Among the hardcore comic
All right,
collectors.
finish your story.
Sorry.
It's alright. So the very first issue I had was Batman as Detective Comics 690 with Firefly. And even at a young age, I remember it being very disturbing. The comic just told Firefly, I think he was burning down a warehouse, and he kept envisioning, like, women dancing in the fire. And there was lots of, like, yeah, baby, dance, like, word balloons.
I mean,
And that
And I think even at, like, the age I was when I read that, like, that's probably a little advanced for me.
and that was the thing that sparked your lifelong love of comics.
Arson.
Is like this
And arson.
yeah,
an arson.
this like super disturbing that
It
was
was,
just
yeah.
like that's the thing that would be for like most people be like, yeah, and I never picked them up because I just had this really bad first experience. You're like,
You're like, that was my first actual comic book I purchased. But I remember other early comic books. There was Action Comics, I remember, with Cyborgs.
how old are you? I remember this Action Comics. I had this guy on the front lifting a car over his head.
Yeah.
Like,
It was some kind of Superman. No, it was an Action Comics with Cyborg Superman. And he had like a fake Smallville he was in. And I think he thought he was Superman. But then everyone started like melting. So it was these like green radioactive skeletons.
these all sound like nightmares.
It was 90s comics, so they were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It might have had a holofoil comic cover.
I missed
Probably.
the 90s comics boat.
Yeah. And it was those comics, and then if anyone remembers the Aliens toys that came out,
No.
all the Aliens toys came with Dark Horse comic Aliens comics that were also, that was that weird era where like they made toys for movies that children shouldn't have seen, but they
Sure.
did see, like Aliens and
Pre-
RoboCop,
Predator,
Rambo, all that awesome stuff.
all the things you want a 5-year-old to see.
And I did, so that was great.
That actually explains a lot.
I was gonna say the same thing. It's like I'm learning a lot that is explaining so much of your behavior, Kyle.
All right, let's explain your behavior.
Are you done? I don't
Yeah.
want to. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, like actually, the first thing you said, I was totally the opposite. My parents are both total nerds, and video games I think was the main. I mean, it was everything, but video games was like the real hardcore nerd devotion in my house. Like we had videos. We had like. I've told you this, Laserdisc. We had all the Back to the Future movies and the original Star Wars trilogy on Laserdisc,
Good.
among other things. And I couldn't even tell you the first time I saw any of those. Like, it's before I like could develop memories. But everyone in the family had a different like video game that they were into or that they played just at different levels. I remember us all gathering around and watching my dad play Echo the Dolphin on the Sega Genesis.
My mom and Linda played Tetris unendingly.
My mom, my brother both, I think, played Monkey Island. And I played nothing because I was the youngest. I have told my dad
Rightfully
this.
so.
I have told my dad this, and he laughed until he cried for about 20 minutes. I think that I now watch Let's Plays as an adult because of my training as the youngest of 3 in a family, because I never got the controller. And when I did, I was terrible because I never got to play. So
Dead
the
in 2
rare occasion when I
seconds.
did, I couldn't do anything. So I sat and watched my dad play. I sat and watched my sister play. I sat and watched my brother play. I have like some of my fondest memories are watching my sister and her friends, and they would sit in 2 chairs and I would sit in a chair behind them in front of the TV and playing Ocarina of Time.
Oh.
But obviously I never got the controller in that. I never got the controller in anything. And so I'm just like, I love playing video games, but I also am totally fine watching other people play video games.
Should we call a therapist?
Yeah, I mean, probably.
I mean, they'll probably be opening up soon, right?
God, yeah.
It's like,
Related to that or just in general?
Yeah,
No,
well.
Anyway, but no, I mean, we have like happy memories. That was the thing to do, and like everyone in my family did enjoy it. It wasn't like when do I get the controller? It was
Yeah.
like, oh, let's all like watch Echo the Dolphin happen for a while. Let's all watch like The Lion King. Was that Sega or Nintendo? I think it was Sega Genesis.
Sega.
Probably.
Yeah, game. For like the first 2 levels, and we can't get beyond that because that game's hard as shit. Like, let's watch all these things, or like all the original like Donkey Kong games on the Super Nintendo. So yeah, in addition to Star Wars and Back to the Future, and we were a Star Trek family too, so watching those was also an event.
I think that says more about your character than
you?
anything else.
Here's the other thing about my family and Star Trek. I think every member of my family is into a different Star Trek series. Like my dad watched Next Generation. My sister likes Deep Space Nine, so judge her, please. And
Who's the pariah that's into Voyager?
That's me.
Is that you?
Really? Voyager's the best. Over Deep Space Nine. Over
Mike-
Deep Space Nine, they aren't even on a spaceship. They're on a space station. Like nothing ever. The only good thing about that show is Odo and like his like antics with the Ferengi Quark. Is that his name? Yeah. Like, but even that, just, and the only watchable episodes for me from Next Generation are the Q ones. And even just a lot of Next Generation is just, like, hard to watch for me. Just really hard to watch. But anyway.
I wish you guys could see the way Kyle and I are looking at each other as she speaks.
This episode we might come to blows.
We challenged each other to a karate tournament last night. And I wasn't going to
I'm sorry, we challenged each other or you challenged me?
I challenged you. I wasn't going to bring it back up, but like now I feel I have to.
For honor. It's like
honor.
it's an
I
honor
will
thing now.
shove you into the swamp.
I
Voyager was a great show. We will do another episode just about how great Voyager was. Better than any other Star Trek series.
No, we won't.
will hire Ralph Macchio to fight you for me, and he will accept the money.
I will be so starstruck by Ralph Macchio, I will not be able to fight. And that will be the only reason. Not that I can't fight, because I never exercise in any fashion. Anyway, that's my nerdy origin beginning.
Well, I mean, mine is kind of like Kyle's, where I was given a comic book that a young child probably should not have been reading right off the bat.
Good.
There's an issue with heavy metal.
Yeah. I forget it's Batman. I forgot the number, and I'm not going to say it because I'll get yelled at. But it's the issue where Jason Todd is murdered by the Joker.
That was your first issue?
Yes. That was the very first.
You guys had super traumatic comic book introductions.
Wait until I get to my next point after Mike.
God.
I didn't even buy it, though. It was given to me by my neighbor because her grandson didn't want it anymore.
That was a veiled message.
So
My grandson killed himself here. You can have this comic.
so I got
like, stop playing on my yard or I'll murder you with a crowbar.
I got that issue, and then she also gave me the 4-issue graphic novel set, like the original printing of it.
Nice.
So yeah, I read that. That was the first comic book I've ever read. But other than that, it was Batman the Animated Series, which is what got me into it. Of
course.
You know, and then just watching Star Wars again and again and again and again and again. But I kind of got into it from my, like the whole nerdy culture from my uncle and my grandfather. My grandfather, whenever we would go over to his house, he would walk my brother and I over to the 7-Eleven, and kind of like you, when you would go to the grocery store to get the comic books, we would get them off of the rack at 7-Eleven. And then my uncle, he's the one who really got me into Star Wars. Every year for my birthday or Christmas, he would buy me a Star Wars toy. And he lived in Florida and we lived in New York at the time. But he would buy it, open it, put all the decals on it in the right spot for me, and then send it up. So I didn't have to worry about any of that. Like,
I was going to say, this is like a, just so you don't fuck this up, Mike.
well, yeah.
He either loved you or had a very low opinion of you.
They're not mutually exclusive.
I mean, but I was okay with it because I was able to just take it out of the box and just play with it. Like,
Yeah.
That's great.
all
yeah.
the decals were on it, and it looked like it did in the movie. And it wasn't just like a piece of plastic that you had to stick all these little things
Yeah.
on. It was just ready to go.
For the record, are you saying the original Star Wars action figures Carrie Fisher looked like Carrie Fisher?
What?
You remember like the Power of the Force, like monkey face Carrie Fisher?
No, I didn't have that one.
And she has like linebacker shoulders?
I mean, I wouldn't be
You didn't have a
surprised,
Planet of
but
the Apes action figure, Kyle? And that's what you're thinking of?
No. Look up this Carrie Fisher. I'm going to look it up while someone else shares a number and then come back to me.
I mean,
bing it.
I'm not
Yeah, I'll do
surprised because like the action figures they made then looked god awful.
Okay, in the total opposite direction for traumatizing comic books, I didn't regularly read any comics as a kid. I just we didn't go to a comic shop, so I'd go to Borders and I'd get them off the spinner racks, but it'd be
Yeah.
like one issue in the middle of something I've never read. Oh God!
It looks like they took the Han Solo head mold and put like the Princess Leia hair on it.
I will put this picture in the comment section of this
Yeah.
podcast.
That's what it looks like, though, right? It
Yeah.
looks like they took the Han
Yeah,
Solo
that's-
head mold.
that's deeply
and-
It might be, yeah. It might be a wedge. That might be wedge. Wedge with Porkins boobs.
Anyway, I was going to say that so I didn't read any comics regularly because I'd get middle issues and have no idea what was going on. But I was into manga when I was like 10 or 11. And it was like when it was just before and just as it started getting popular. So it was like the one shelf in Borders that would have
The good old days.
I watched it. It was not the good old days. I read Ranma 1/2 because it was one of the like 3 series they carried, and then it expanded over the years. But
into a
my-
whole section.
my mom, which side note, as of this recording, my mom just liked our Facebook page. Woo! So like I don't know if she's listening, but Mom, I'm about to complain about you, something fierce. So my mom would like flip through the manga and be like, is this appropriate or not? But she'd just do a very cursory flip. And the Japanese don't have exactly the same attitudes towards, say, female nudity as American culture does. And Ranma 1/2, for one, is about like a man who's like cursed so that he turns into a woman whenever, like, I feel like it's cold water like gets splashed on him, and then hot water turns him back into a man. So there's a lot of like he'll be walking around shirtless, like fighting someone, and then get like the rain starts and suddenly he's a topless woman. And
Sounds great.
I read this one called Peach Girl, and she would like flip through it, and there would be a scene that was just like in a bathroom, or just like she's wearing a bikini because she's on the swim team and like was going swimming. And my mom would be like, "This is inappropriate for you. You can't read this." So, I mean, I still did, but I just read it all inside the bookstore. And so my sister Mel and I sat down when there were maybe like 2 rows of manga at this point. And she was like, we're going to find one that like mom actually thinks is okay for you to read. And we found one. My sister's like, I think this will be a good one. It's about a Catholic schoolgirl who is like a thief by night, but she's like a noble thief. She like steals things back for people who are in need. And it was called Saint Tail. And I was like, Mel, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard of. And I read every issue of it, and it was amazing, and I loved it. It was like a great shoujo manga.
I hope her
I still have every issue.
I hope her quirky best friend in the comic was like a super stylized manga Jesus.
It was a nun.
Oh,
Her quirky friend was a nun.
Just as good.
They were all like 12 or 13 or something, and it was like a Japanese person's idea of what a nun is, and it was great.
Well, you were complaining about your mother.
Uh-huh.
I will commend my mother in my next childhood memory.
Damn, making me look bad.
She'll never listen to this. She doesn't, so it doesn't even matter. Anyway.
Yeah, but my mom will complain that you were being nicer to
Yeah.
your mother. But anyway.
All right, when I was a young child, being
Did your
educated.
father take you into the city
Yeah.
to see a marching band?
Yeah.
Shut up.
How dare you? We'll have a music episode, and I'll get on that later.
Okay.
So, no, my mom, when Kmart's were still a thing, my mom would take me to the Kmart VHS section.
I love how much we're dating ourselves at this episode.
Yeah.
I mean,
Great.
Kmart's still a thing, but go on.
Yeah. But the VHS section isn't. No, we'd go.
Touche.
And there was one summer in particular we'd go, and VHS were on sale for like $2. And she'd be like, all right, well, here's like $20. Pick out some movies. I don't care what they are.
Oh, boy.
And I remember very vividly picking out like Aliens, Evil Dead 2, like every movie that had a skull on the cover, or someone covered in blood, or like a monster with like venom dripping off its fangs, or like a Schwarzenegger movie, like any trashy '80s films I picked up.
I hope that this timeline-wise totally lined up with when I was reading shoujo about a Catholic school.
Probably.
Perfectly.
It probably did.
At the same moment. in
No,
time.
like my mom never cared like what movies I was picking up because she would be, okay, these are fake, and you're not going to turn into a serial killer. She'd be like, yes, and like, those are my two.
My mom never said that to me for some reason.
I like the criteria.
Those are her only criteria. And there was a summer, I probably bought like over 100 VHS tapes that summer. And I had to go home from Kmart, and I would just watch the movies back to back to back. And it was like VHS, so they still have the trailers in the front of the movies. So I'd have a notebook, and every trailer that came on, I'd write down what those movies were, and then I'd go try to find those, and just kind of splintered off that way.
It's genius.
Yeah, and I mean, those weren't, it's not my first movie memory, but that's probably like where I started like really getting into collecting. Like my first movie memory, and I researched this too, was Christmas. It wasn't Christmas Eve like I thought it was. It was Christmas night 1992. And I remember that year we got beanbag chairs for Christmas. And I sat
So 90s.
in our den, and Empire Strikes Back came on. And it was the very first time I'd ever seen... I didn't see the first Star Wars before this one, so the Darth Vader reveal meant nothing to me. But I remember sitting with my dad, watching Empire Strikes Back Christmas night, and my sister's playing with her like dollhouse in the background. And just being completely enthralled because I'd seen like some sci-fi films, but never anything like Star Wars. Like everything in Empire is so iconic. Like the AT-ATs, Hoth, Darth Vader, Boba Fett, like Han Solo and Carbonite. Just everything was
The battle.
like
And
everything was so iconic, and it just like burnt its way into my mind.
As well it should.
Yeah, I have one more movie memory because you mentioned Laserdisc earlier.
Yeah.
And I couldn't forget it. The first Laserdisc I ever watched was at my aunt's house, and it was my cousin Marty showing me the movie Heavy Metal, and I was like 8. And he's like, yeah, this movie's great. It starts with like a Sammy Hagar song and a pink convertible falling out of space, and then there's animated boobs in the entire rest of the film. And I thought my cousin Marty was the coolest fucking person in the universe. Shout out to Marty.
How old were you?
Maybe 8 or 9.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah,
It's
checks
because
out.
like you had your family members. My cousins were like super nerds. My cousin Michael, my cousin Marty. Michael was into like Buffy and
Yeah.
Star Trek and all the sci-fi stuff. Michael wasn't as into Star Trek as is Marty, and Marty's like on and like at a Star Trek convention right now. So, but no, those were like my movie memories.
What does he
like,
think about Voyager?
what does he think about Voyager? Marty, what do you think about Voyager? Leave a comment in the section.
Like, comment and subscribe if you like Voyager.
I have a movie story. It's just a minor one. Growing up, I remember seeing Terminator 2 before the original Terminator, and for the longest time, I thought Judgment Day was the first movie. Like I thought it was the first. I thought it was the first Terminator because I didn't see the first one until I was an adult. Up until that point, I was like, what is this other shitty movie where Arnold's the bad guy? What is this nonsense?
That's great.
So, where's the metal guy? Like the liquid. So that was just a
Yeah.
movie memory that I remember.
Yeah, I also thought it's like probably telling. I don't even consider this a nerdy thing, but like also growing up in Florida, I was super into Disney and we went to Disney World all the time. So that is like obviously if I wasn't allowed to see anime or like manga drawn boobs, I wasn't allowed to watch any scary movies or anything as a kid. So I watched exclusively Disney movies, like every single one. I know like every lyric of every song and the Disney Renaissance, and like I know those maps of the parks like the back of my hand.
Up in Florida and being like, I guess like self-proclaimed nerd is kind of weird because even if you don't like Disney, you kind of like Disney stuff.
Yeah, you don't.
I feel it's just like kind of like I'm not a gigantic Disney fan. Except when I go to Disney,
Yeah.
then I'm like, I fucking love Disney.
That's
Like-
it's like that no matter where you are, because my father is like that. Like we lived in New York before we moved here. He was born and raised in the city. I don't think he's ever really seen, like he never went out of his way to watch Disney movies except like when we were kids and we would put them on. But every time we go to Disney, from the time we moved here even till now, he becomes like that. He fucking loves going to the parks.
Oh my gosh. I remember like sleepovers where we'd just like watch a ton of Disney movies. I remember getting like, there were these CDs that were like Disney classic volumes and they would just be like a mix of random Disney songs. And they also, so we had those, we had just like the soundtracks to the movies on CD and they had the like booklets with the lyrics in them. I remember like sitting and like poring over those lyrics to like memorize every word to make a man out of you. And, like that like on the fold out couch in my family room is like another solid memory.
For me, it was The Sopranos.
Yeah, totally like Disney.
No, I mean, like, we lived, like I said, we lived in New York. We were Italian, like,
Oh yeah, great. I didn't grow up in Florida.
right, like, we
Sopranos was your Disney. That's your Mickey Mouse.
pretty much
Like Big Pussy was your Goofy.
like when that that show came,
I've never seen The Sopranos, and I don't want context for that statement.
Deal.
like that show came on, and it was just so relatable to us because it was like the area, but like not the like just the area. Like my parents like they let us watch it. They didn't try to hide it from us. They're like, yeah, this,
Like, you need to learn the reality of the world to watch
yeah,
this.
pretty much like this is what's going on. But it was cool to watch as a kid. Like it was a mob thing. There was nudity. I was a kid. Like
Was I the only kid in the world who wasn't allowed to see nudity as a child?
Yeah.
maybe.
Oh.
I feel like we could do an entire episode on things we saw as children we shouldn't have seen.
Yeah.
Like-
I couldn't.
Absolutely.
We should do an entire episode on things Erin didn't see in childhood that she should have seen.
I think we should counterbalance. You guys should do things you shouldn't have seen as kids, and I'll do like what I found scandalous as a child in my incredibly sheltered world. Like in Aladdin 2: Return of Jafar, Iago says "shut up," and I was like,
Meanwhile, Kyle and I were watching boobs.
right? People getting like eviscerated.
No big deal.
The first time I heard the word bastard was in this movie, is an animated movie called Rockadoodle.
Oh, I remember that terrible movie.
Ah, that movie's great. You're
Nope.
crazy. You also think Hanna-Barbera is for poor people, so
What's wrong with you?
you aren't allowed to judge.
First of all,
I guess
not an opinion,
I guess
that's a
Don
fact.
Bluth films were for poor people too.
No, they weren't for poor people. I watched them. They're just like objectively, as an adult, terrible.
Can't even.
Wasn't Pebble and the Penguin a Don Bluth film?
We don't talk about that.
That was like my favorite.
I will-
We rented that from Red Rabbit Video before Blockbuster drove them out of business, and I rented it so many times on VHS. My family had to like have an intervention and be like, "Look, this is not a good movie. You need to stop
I
watching
feel
this."
like Don Bluth and Rockadoodle it is to like Walt Disney and like anti-Semitism. Like you just don't mention it. like yeah, it exists and it was horrible, but like
Rockadoodle or Pebble and the Penguin?
Pebble and the Penguin.
Oh, you said Rockadoodle.
Did I? I take that back. Rockadoodle's a fucking national treasure. That movie's great.
Which one was the one with Tim Curry with an American accent? I think that was Pebble and the Penguin.
What?
It was. I think he was. The
I think
bad
he was
guy.
like the villain, yeah, and he had an American accent.
Was Martin Short though?
Like, I feel like he was a chicken, but probably he was just a penguin. So
He was a
Martin
penguin.
Short was in that.
Yeah.
He was like the wacky side character.
Oh god.
And that's all I remember from that movie.
Anyway, let's kind of bring it back.
I feel like we've kind of defined like I don't know. I feel if you listen to this, you might get a little insight into us just from our first.
Yeah.
Or like what we were into.
And you'll know how psychotic we are.
Right. How deeply, deeply scarred we are.
Yeah.
So we
Oh,
were.
you know what was fucking good? That movie about the kid and the 3 books that were like
Page Master?
yes, Page Master.
Page Master was great.
I loved that movie. That was like one of the movies that I loved, but like Pebble and the Penguin, we didn't own. So like I had to like catch it on TV or like beg for it to be rented. Or that was a great movie. Wasn't Whoopi Goldberg in it?
To us.
I need to rewatch that movie. I bet it holds up
Macaulay Culkin was in the movie.
fantastically. Really?
Yeah, I think Christopher Lloyd was in the
Is that the
movie,
one
too.
that gets animated like halfway through? And then...
Yeah.
Not
Doesn't
even
it
half
go
it there. It's like
into-
a quarter
yeah,
of it.
Oh,
yeah,
well,
no, it's like the
it's-
intro is live action.
Yeah, and then he gets animated.
Like,
and then
we've
he goes-
sidetracked into an early 90s animated film episode.
That's, I mean, we're talking about nerdy origins. That's basically what this is.
It could be a whole episode.
Okay,
in
so
itself.
fine, non-animation. Well, do you want to go TV animation? Like, what were the nerdy
Oh my
TV
God.
shows you watched as a kid?
I feel this is
Hanna-Barbera? Poor person.
No, I remember Cartoon Network when it first came out didn't have anything original.
Yeah.
It aired nothing but replays of old Hanna-Barbera
Yeah,
cartoons.
Looney Tunes and Tom and Jerry
Yeah.
and all that shit.
I remember watching as a kid, like, I guess like when it did start having like newer cartoons, like Pirates of Darkwater, SWAT Cats. Like, those are the shows I thought were good. Then I'd go to school and be like, guys, did you catch the new SWAT Cats? And no.
What the fuck is wrong with you?
No one saw SWAT Cats except you. I might still have SWAT Cats action figures.
Well, okay, I was going to say I don't feel as bad about not knowing what any of those shows you just named are.
Pirates of Darkwater was another. I was like, this is like good stuff, and I've tried to watch it recently, and
Yeah.
Not good
I
stuff.
think I made it through the first frame of the credits.
That was like
Leonard Nimoy was in Page Master. I'm sorry.
that's like I tried to watch
I'm
the
gonna
original
go rewatch it
Voltron
right
cartoon because
Mm-hmm.
I've been watching the new one on Netflix, and
Yeah.
the new one is fantastic. I tried to watch the original one, not as fantastic. It
It's
is rough.
I mean, you see things through the lens of your childhood, where it's. I mean, you know, there's stuff that I grew up. Like I said, like you know, Evil Dead 2 and all those like Schwarzenegger films, and all these like terrible '80s horror movies and action movies, and I still love them. Like they're still great. Like.
You know what?
It's different though. Like if you watch like cartoons when we were kids, like with the exception of the Batman animated series, a lot of them are horrible, and a lot of them had shit hidden in them that kids were not meant to see.
Yep, Animaniacs.
Animaniacs, fingerprints.
Except, yeah.
or-
my parents were 100% behind that. Like, Animaniacs was totally okay.
Well,
And The
but like,
Simpsons,
did you
for
ever
some
see that
reason.
thing in Hey Arnold where like the grandpa's head was basically shaped like a dick?
No.
Like his chin were the balls, and then like if the side of his head, and he had the nub on the
If-
top of his head that looked
Yeah.
like it
If
was.
this isn't the cover photo for this episode, I'm gonna be very upset.
Okay, I just remembered
It looks so
actually.
disturbing.
I'd been planning to talk about the actual, like, first concrete memory. Like, video games and movies were sort of ever present, but, like, when I got into Pokemon and Sailor Moon, which was the same time, I remember every morning before school, that was when they aired. For some reason, they aired at, like, 6:30 and 7 in the morning.
Vanessa's gonna love editing this part.
So-
You're talking about Sailor Moon.
Yeah, it was great. And so, like, we were allowed to put them on TV, watch Pokemon the series and Sailor Moon if we, like, continued getting ready throughout it. And that was, like, the utmost motivation. It was just like, okay, I'll brush my teeth, I'll eat my breakfast, I'll do whatever you want. Just, like, don't turn off Pokemon.
Just let me watch the Moon Princess.
Yeah.
My morning cartoons Like, God, they're so terrible. Like, Garfield and Friends was on.
Oh yeah,
And, like,
that was on
Pokemon.
too. It was awful.
But I
Pokemon was an
remember-
objectively bad show too. It was like
we were,
great game, terrible
We were
show.
skipping through channels and Dragon Ball was on, original Dragon Ball, but it was on Telemundo.
Oh God.
So I used to watch Dragon Ball on Telemundo all the time before school.
I watched Futurama when I was in Spain with a 6-year-old in the room. That was not appropriate.
Why not?
It's the episode where Zoidberg rode on like a giant sperm like a horse.
Even like Rugrats, if you go back and look at old episodes of Rugrats now, it is not. There are a lot of things in there that are not
For sure,
meant
like
for kids.
yeah, a lot of those
I was-
Nickelodeon shows
like,
there
were
was
like
an-
sneaking.
there was
I
kids
was
in.
banned from more cartoons as a kid than movies. Like, my mom didn't care about
Yeah.
my movies, but like Two Stupid Dogs I wasn't allowed to watch.
Yep. It was,
Beavis and Butthead was not allowed to watch. Ren and Stimpy was not allowed to watch.
Nope.
I think my mom just thought it was like they were gross.
Yeah.
But Two Stupid Dogs she didn't want me to watch because she didn't want me to call my sister stupid.
I was not allowed to watch
And it didn't work.
Cow and Chicken or like Ren and Stimpy. Like
Ken and
those
Chicken
were-
wasn't allowed to watch
Those,
that.
you know
those
what's-
shows were sort of the ones I like self-censored on because I found like Cow and Chicken and like Ren and Stimpy and Rocko's Modern Life. They just like creeped me out as a kid. Like I found them really like unsettling.
But
for
you know
some
what's
reason.
funny? If you go back, like those cartoons, the ones that our parents thought were bad, were not as bad as some of the things we were allowed to watch.
Yeah.
Like there were a lot of more innuendos and things like Rugrats and Hey Arnold and like the good cartoons as opposed to like, I mean, Beavis and Butthead was a lost cause, but like,
Yeah.
but,
I don't
like
know, I
Rocko's
think-
Modern Life wasn't as like.
It's sort of like a middle of the road versus like two extremes. Like Rugrats would have like the dirtiest jokes, but also like a sort of wholesome message in it.
Yeah, but there was also an episode of Rugrats where the dad literally talked about how depressed he was.
Yeah,
He was
I know.
like-
That's what I'm saying. It's like it's super dark, but also like had the light. Whereas like Beavis and Butthead is just like all like completely gray. You know,
Yeah.
it's like it didn't have any like good parts, but it didn't have anything like horrible either.
I'd
on the
rather
other
watch
end.
Gray than watch something that flip flops.
Hey, Beavis and Butthead was the first time I saw a Henry Rollins music video, so I would argue that was fantastic.
I don't know what any of that meant.
Anyway,
Save it for the music episode.
We have a new segment I want to try out tonight. Me and Mike are going to try to get Erin to buy something off Amazon. She has not seen the product yet.
I don't know, and I have no money.
Yeah.
And I'm about to go on vacation, so I have less than no
Yeah.
money.
So we're going to keep it under $10, but we're going to try to make our case for. I'll let Mike go first because
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I'm going to win.
yeah.
And this will be our first installment of Erin's Buy Curious.
Can I? Can I only buy one of them, or like if I want to choose both, can I? Isn't that
You can choose both if you want to.
okay? Or neither, for that.
Or
matter,
neither, yeah.
but-
So, all right, Mike.
All right. Well,
And we'll put the items on the Facebook page as well.
Okay, great.
this was sprung on me last minute, so it's kind of shitty. But there, I saw it on there, and I would show you a picture of it, but my phone is being used at the moment.
Okay.
There, it is a rebreather mask.
Go on.
So it's basically like the painter's mask, but it's like high tech. And so like
Kyle is giving Mike right now.
We'll
What
use
are
it when
you
you're
talking
painting
about?
computers.
well, when the,
What are you
I was
talking
gonna
about?
say when the gas bombs start falling,
Oh, that's legit.
you can
for
use
like
it to
zombie
like
survival.
You can use it to survive for like 20 minutes.
So like I can
Other
use
than
it.
that, you're screwed.
I can use it to survive long enough to find a better way to kill myself than like slow agonizing.
There you
death.
go.
Okay.
That's my pitch.
How much was that?
Yeah,
I
that's
think it was like $7.
$7.
You So
Okay.
you have price on your side. I need to read the entire title of my product for you.
Okay.
This is the Remember George Michael coloring book: epic pop and legendary rock master Wham! Inspired tribute to the best
stop, I
musician of
don't
all time, adult coloring book. Parentheses coloring book for adults.
I don't even need the entire title. You had me. I'm sold. That's gonna be okay. No.
So it looks like this isn't official. It looks like you
course
took
not.
pictures of George Michael and in Photoshop just turned them black and white because
Sure.
I don't think you could even color these. But the cover
gonna
is
say,
the cover is very plaintive George Michael.
That better come with like an entire pack of markers or pencils that are just the color of his skin tone, because that's just all going to be shirtless George Michael and George Michael's biceps and George Michael and like ripped somehow like leather chaps or something.
So Erin's question is, where could you buy it?
No, I'm getting it, but like that's not. I feel like you're just like coloring the entire page the color of naked men. Not that I'm averse to that, But like, where's the challenge?
We have some reviews on here I want to read to you.
Is there? Hold on.
Oh boy.
What is the ratio of George Michael to Andrew Ridgeley? This is important.
Like 100 to 0. Like,
Oh, never mind. I'm out.
Really?
so I do think you should buy this. I do think I won.
Okay.
Bad news. 3 customer reviews, 1.4 average out of 5 stars. First review, 1 star, poor quality, could print black and white photos and color myself. Second review, 2 stars. Not sure what to think here. Just reproduced pictures of George that really don't have much to color. Lots of shading and shadows. Disappointed, but I like the pictures anyway. Thanks, Laura H. Third review, pictures that have just been scanned in black and white. Some are smaller than a credit card. What? Horribly done. Don't waste your money. Wish I didn't, says C. Adams. I still feel I need to win just on...
So like, I don't want to buy it now, but I do want to make friends with all those people who left those reviews.
Did Mike win? Are you going to buy the rebreather over the George Michael coloring book that's smaller than a credit card?
How much is it?
It's $10.
$10 even. I am not going to buy either of them. I don't. The idea of a George Michael coloring book is really good.
If properly executed.
Yeah, if properly executed. My
So-
skills rebreather mask. I feel like if the apocalypse comes, we're all going to be underwater because we live in Florida anyway.
Listen, I had 5 minutes of prep time. Okay.
I appreciate your backpedaling and justification.
I think Kyle's been planning this for at least a week.
Yeah. Future notes for this segment, don't let me read the Amazon customer reviews to you before you make a decision. All right, guys. All right. It is so much later in the morning. Thanks for listening, everyone. Have a good morning, night. Jesus Christ, it's late.
Good night.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.